This is the Mooring Committee of the Harbor Management Commission meeting on May 10th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. in the first floor conference room at Sullivan Independence Hall. Attending are Jeff Warren, Bill Pergini, Harbor Master LeClaire, Chair Kim Taylor, Jeff Stedman by phone, member of the public, Pat Carroll, is on the line. And we have a relatively, I think, brief agenda for today. The first, we should do the flag. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Harbor Master report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Brian LeClaire, the Harbor Master. I'll give you an update. All moorings are in place. There are four individuals. The two individuals who we have newly assigned this year from the waiting list have provided all their documents, and they're being assigned their stickers. We have four individuals who paid their money, submitted their renewals, but are lacking documents, so they do not have their stickers. One has provided nothing, so we are pressing him. One needs his current registration for his vessel. He had a temporary registration. And two are working on their safe boating certificates. I should expect them any day from those individuals. So that's under control. Just before the meeting, I was having a conversation with the chairman about the Perry Green moorings and looking at the database and how these were stored. We have to do a little work on that. I've been communicating with Justin. I've assigned the five that are assigned by the Harbor Master already. He is still trying to assign all of his, and we have to get them on the database. They did not show up when I took over on our database on online mooring. In poking around now, we found them as unknown with no information dated for a couple of years now, so we're going to have to reactivate them and get that information in. I've reached out to the Yacht Club regarding the docked vessels, and I've actually communicated with all the docked vessels, and they're providing the information to me directly that we keep on online mooring.
Pequot is?
No, the people are providing it
okay.
Directly. Pequot will provide it for the North Anchorage. Okay. I have my dinghy in the water with its Harbor Master signs and its shiny new paint job. Been puttering around the harbor. And everything looks well. Everything is well. To talk to you about the waiting list, in case you ask, since I began, there have been some additions. Actually, we have 12 additional vessels on the waiting list since November 7th right now, ranging from small power boats to some large 40-foot vessels as well. The next boats at the top of the list are a 43-foot sailboat, a 28-foot power boat, 25-foot power boat, 20-foot power boat, 36-foot sailboat, three more boats in the 20s, power boats, and then a large 48-foot sailboat. So we have a mix of boats coming up on the list. So that is basically my report.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
For the docked vessels on private docks, do we have issues with getting docked vessel reports for those vessels?
No, one gentleman has reached out to me already. He flagged me down when I was at Pequot to introduce himself. He's a new homeowner, he's a homeowner with a new vessel, wanted to know what to do, so I told him what we need, and I'll be assembling that information as well now that I've got the moorings under control.
Great.
Getting all that info. And as I go around, and one of the things I'm going to do is look at the registrations on the vessels that are docked. I know there's a few out there already, and I can have DEEP run them if necessary to find out whose boats they are. If I can't find them on my database, then I can reach out to them directly to say, why is your boat in the harbor? Because I have access to their computer system now.
Okay.
So,
excellent.
Yeah, that'll make it much easier.
Yeah.
I noticed in online mooring, taking a peek at it today, on the dashboard, there are mooring floats, floating docks that are looking like they're still pending. Is there a system issue for them? These are all, we know that Pequot paid for them, so there's no information missing because they're floating docks, so I just don't know.
I'll look
why
at that
they're
after the
pending.
meeting. We can look at that, yeah.
It looked like there were a couple that were approved and a bunch that are showing pending, and I didn't know why
I'll
that
take a
was.
look at that.
So I was wondering if it was a systems problem.
There was a systems problem because someone who I offered, Mr. Furlong, provided all of his documentations. He has his commercial license, the boat registration, everything. When I actually did this morning because everything came in yesterday. He was on the wait list. I issued his permit and he emailed back, Mr. Harbor Master, why do I have to start all over again? And I'm looking at the message the system sent, and it told him he needed to submit everything. The wrong message went out. So I have to try to tweak why that happened, because that shouldn't have. Once you award the permit, I see the system awarded it and moved him from the waiting list to the approved list, but the wrong message went out. So I'll look and see if there's a glitch there. I'll work on that.
Okay. This is just a point of clarification for myself. You've got a drawing in front of us here of the layout of the moorings in the field. There are two boats that are moored just off of the lower wharf, just immediately to the, let me get this right, to the north of Lower Wharf.
Are there two, or I thought there was just one?
And it looks like I was looking at the tackle when I was out walking out there, and it's at least two.
There are two, and they show up on the list.
I just don't, what do we call those moorings? Do you know which ones?
Oh, yeah,
they're just next to those decrepit pilings.
Yeah.
That's LW, okay, what we have is LW 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is Mr. Devlin with his 37-foot power boat.
Way out.
Mr. Frostick is LW02, and he is, let me call him up right now, I'll tell you what vessel is his. Mr. Frostick is LW02, 19-foot power boat called Angler, and number 3 would be Mr. Seymour's Bula Bula, a 19-foot power boat.
So that's the 2 and 3, I think, are these.
Yes, those are 2 and 3, and
And
Mr.
this
Devlin
is
is number 1.
One out.
His hasn't been set yet as of last week because the yacht club usually gets a call from him when he's ready. He likes his lines to be clean, so they put him last minute in the water when he's ready. And that works for them. I said, that's fine. I said, I'm not going to make you put it in early. If you have a deal with Mr. Devlin and...
So there's 2 moorings there. There were no boats on it yet. I just was trying, I had not remembered that there's 2 on the left as you're coming in the channel.
Which really makes the channel really narrow at low tide.
Right there, right.
Really narrow at low tide.
Right.
I mean, because you have to turn right there at the wharf.
Correct.
Because they kind of drift out a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was just trying to get myself situated there.
Yeah.
I had put on the agenda, that's I think mostly been addressed here. In talking to Justin, he's still working on trying to get people assigned to those Perry Green moorings, so we're still a little bit between here. We should find out what he knows, I guess, about, are you going to be talking to him?
I'm going to sit down with him now that I know that we found these by poking around the website, that in the past, not last year, but several years ago, we used to maintain the records. What's his understanding as to how that's done?
We did it on paper back in the day before online mooring.
Who's entering it on online? Who's going to be entering it? Him or whatever.
Right, it's a handful and also that we need the same information that we have for all the other boats.
I did tell him that. I said, even though the town doesn't collect safe boating certificates, I told him they're required in the harbor.
Right.
I need them whether you collect them or not. It's a harbor management rule.
Right. It's different than North Anchorage, though, because these we do want to keep in our database.
He doesn't have access to online mooring, does he?
No.
Yeah, so he can't enter it. So
unless we gave him permission. Right.
Maybe that's...
You give him limited permission if you wanted to, but it might be easier just to, I don't know.
And we've never invited the people. It could issue a message to the people he's assigning those moorings to directly from online to enter the information back in.
I don't know if he knows what, because he's not been around forever either. I don't know if he knows who's supposed to be paying fees to where, but I don't know. I wasn't part of those discussions.
He collects all the money for the town Perry Green moorings and then reimburses us once we build him, correct?
So maybe the town collects the permit for that and we don't get that, and so what I remember it was negotiated is what the tackle fee was going to be for us to receive from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I just know that we get reimbursed by him, that we don't bill those people directly.
Oh, well, that would suggest that whatever charges they get beyond that, he's keeping.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm going to pull one up in the past and see what, in the past, it looks like there are no payments issued on these. When did we go online with Perry?
This is our third year.
Yeah.
That could be sifted through to find.
Well, we can just
Probably
ask the
not.
former chair, he would know, he was in the meeting where they met with them, right? The
Well,
the
Norman
former-
or Jim.
Yeah, either one.
Norman or Jim.
On my system, while I found them called unknown, ? None of them appear to ever have had payments made through online mooring.
Yeah.
But there's names, information on vessels. It looks like in the past, 2020, their notices went out to the folks. It's kind of weird.
Well, that
Just
would make
communications went out to them, but no, very strange. Communications.
Maybe we
went
should
out.
ask a member of the public if he remembers that used to be done.
Yeah.
Pat, do you remember about the Perry Green moorings administered by Parks and Rec? And we collect payment for the tackle from Parks and Rec. Do you remember what happens for payment of the permit fees for those?
They paid a permit fee, and they paid I think it was a half tackle maintenance fee, but that went directly to the harbor management funds. We had nothing to do with the parks. They took care of themselves. They assigned the numbers at the green, and as the boats were put in the water, we sent them a mooring application, and they submitted the required funds.
Okay.
But Jeff's right, we might be able to go back to minutes. There
Maybe.
might have been in a meeting that Norman reported on.
What happened with
Committee
that?
meeting, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been like 2019 or something like that, or 18. I don't know.
It's funny, at no point after that, I went into a few of them. I don't see any payments coming in through online.
Because they're-
and I see no assignments going through online.
The
mooring.
payments that we've always gotten from the town have gone directly to Betty. Right. In fact, it's gone right to the finance department, coordinated between Justin and Betty. So I send the bill on behalf of the commission, and then the payments get moved directly between Parks and Rec's account and our account.
The other interesting thing is...
And our account, I'm
we-
saying the town harbor management
It
account.
would have been late 2019, the latter half of 2019.
With that discussion happened
Yeah,
with the Parks and Rec
yeah.
department. I do remember that when I was
June
I was an alternate, and there was a meeting with the folks at Parks and Rec between
But
Norman
I
and
wasn't part of
Jim.
that. I don't know if it
Okay.
was Norman and
Jim,
Justin or,
and Jim also. Jim was there too.
was he? I don't know.
I think so, yeah.
I do know the permits were never issued to them on the town Perry Green through online mooring, because there'd be a notice there that it was approved.
Right.
So
Right.
that was never
Right.
entered into.
That, I think, if anything, was more of a timing issue, because Justin didn't get to them until mid-season.
it's always been so confusing.
Yeah, all right, well, it'd be good to sort of document what's
Come up
supposed to
with
happen, right, right, okay. And as you mentioned, Justin mentioned to me today that they don't have safe boating certificates because the state of Connecticut now requires people to register boats, have a safe boating certificate, and so for all the marina boats, they're not asking for that as a requirement because there's an expectation to register people had it. I explained to him that we had people who had their boats in our harbor from long before that was a requirement from the state, and so they didn't have the safe boating certificate, so now we're getting them to get that.
It's nice, it's a one and done.
Right,
They're
right.
lifetime,
Right.
so once we have them saved on the system, they'll be there
Right.
forever, which is a good thing.
Right. I think that was it for topics of old business. There was one new business item that Kim Taylor and I talked about today, and you want to sort of raise that for consideration of the mooring committee as an activity for us to do?
Yeah, I just asked Jack if he thought that this committee would feel comfortable coming up with a recommendation for the full commission, on what the job responsibility or the job description for the assistant harbor master should be. Since you're here and it's a relatively small group and we deal with mooring issues, that if perhaps this committee could come up, if not in this meeting, certainly perhaps by the end of the next meeting, just as some ideas to see if, primarily with your input, whether there's anything else, anything different that we would want to ask for in an assistant that we didn't ask for in the harbor master.
So I'm gonna throw one idea out for your consideration, is we already had the job description that was for when you were brought
Right.
on board.
Start with that.
And what if we said that the expectation immediately is that no responsibilities other than to be available as
To be
a
able to
backup?
assist the harbor master as requested by the harbor master.
And possibly, in the future, the harbor master may request that you perform some subset or all of the things on there, and make that be the job description.
I would agree.
If that's
I
okay,
think
we're
that's-
really looking for a lady in waiting for this
Right.
position, basically, if
Right.
something should happen.
Right.
And we don't have to get super creative if we did that. There might be things on here that you don't even want to include at all, so it's only a subset of that list, potentially.
Well, that list, we went to great pains when we put together that list to make sure that we adequately described the administrative responsibilities as well as the need for nautical knowledge.
Right.
And, but I don't know whether we would continue to need that, to describe it as an administrative position, that your job is an administrative position and they may be called on. They may never get in the harbor master boat.
We have to imagine that at any time during the year, you could become disabled and
Right.
unable to
Right.
perform your duties, so they should be able to perform any of the duties that at any time of
Right.
year.
It's like, I look at a police department, you have your deputy chief. I do a lot of municipal law work.
Right.
Your deputy chief has to be able to step into that role if needed, like your lieutenant governor. We
Right.
saw with Jody Rell had to step into the role of governor
Right.
if needed.
Right,
Usually that second person, while they may not have specific duties, their duties are those, if any, as assigned by,
right.
like our lieutenant governor of Connecticut really doesn't have any specific duties other than, as president with this,
Right.
a certain vote.
Bill, do you have a thought about
That's a good way to
this?
do it.
I mean, Joe,
I agree with what's been expressed thus far. Somebody that's, capable, competent, knowledge, skill, experience to step in, and execute the duties if the harbor master should be unable to. But I think it would, as, previously mentioned, be, under the purview of the harbor master or, shall assist, as per the request of the harbor master. That would be my thought or thoughts.
Okay.
I agree, so keep it short for
Does,
the,
does that make sense, or am I on the wrong track?
I mean,
Best way to,
so we're sort of so Kim, you were thinking that if this committee presents at next week's meeting or wait a month and do it then, we would then assign or get volunteers to be on a interviewing committee for anybody that applies. So, and then we would need people, not this group, but in a different group to do the process that we went through.
Correct.
When you were hired.
I mean, we have to post something. We have to post a description of some kind.
Right.
And we have to give people information about what they're applying for, obviously, and I know that there would be some people out there who would be interested, but what they know about the position, I don't know. So we need to have a job description. But when we were the two times that I've been involved in searching for harbor masters, we spent a significant amount of time, committee time, putting together a job description. This one, it seems to me, is really quite good.
It is.
And if you, Brian, think it is right on with what you do,
Yeah.
then I don't see the need to spend a lot of commissioners' time creating yet another job description, which only takes up time, which only makes the process longer. And so if we have something to post, we post it, and then all the search committee would do would be to interview candidates and come up with 3 names to recommend to the governor.
Right.
And just, it shortens the lifespan of the
Process.
committee work, that's
Right,
all.
Right.
if you have a shortened version that basically says that they're need to be able to fulfill the duties of the harbor master. As an addendum, you should include that job description so
That's
they
an
know what
interesting
I
idea.
was gonna say, you can say, see job description with
Yes.
a link or
Right.
something to this.
Right.
Because one issue is that anyone who's a deputy harbor master is probably going to think of themselves as heir to the throne,
Right.
and they should know what they're getting themselves involved.
Right.
involved in.
Right, and in fact, I think, and Jeff Stedman will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not going to be that he's heir to the throne.
Right.
Because the harbor master appointment is a whole separate
Right. So that
process
that could be handled in the interviewing process.
Right, oh, absolutely, absolutely, but you're right, that's what they're gonna be thinking, is that,
Yeah.
It's just idea, can we do that? Can we create a job description that says, see this other job description? For
Yeah, why not? You could say to assist the harbor master.
In any of the duties as
Any of
assigned by the harbor
duties
master.
assigned by the harbor master. The duties of the harbor master may be found here.
why not?
Yeah,
I like that.
that's perfect.
And then let them click on the link or whatever and see what the harbor master does.
Well, you have a website, right? There's a Harbor Master website. Fairfield Harbor Master?
Yeah, on the Fairfield Town site,
On the
there's a
Fairfield Town?
subset of it.
There is?
Yes.
I think so.
Oh, I thought I was under the Harbor Management Commission, a separate one. Okay. Oh, just my name, where my name appears. Right. Oh, you're saying put it up there. I can have the
Well,
town put the
in
job
one of those
description
two
there.
places, I
Okay.
mean,
Where
we-
they
we
put
just-
both or whatever.
We would just need a place to put it and then to attach the link to wherever that place is.
That's,
Right.
yeah, that would work.
So, it feels like there's a consensus. Bill, are you good with that idea, with just creating a description that see the harbor master description as for what you might be asked to do in the future?
Yeah, that sounds great to me. I'm just in the process of looking it up now, but I would presume there would be, a description of the core skills and experience that we deem necessary. Is that correct?
All in that, yeah, very detailed, yeah. And it goes into detail on the administrative role in the wintertime, coupled with the on-the-water supervisory responsibility.
It sets out educational requirements, say voting certificate, some amount of college, or,
Right.
I forget,
Ability
You have to have a
Yeah.
college degree or related maritime experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing in here I noticed that this reminds me is we don't have a harbor police force. It talks about the harbor police force. The harbor
town.
master coordinates the harbor police force.
The town
The town has a marine.
unit.
Yeah, it enforces applicable marine ordinances, ensures enforcement of laws, regs, and policies concerning water or properties, coordinating harbor police force to assist with this enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, the harbor
We can
police.
change that.
We can change
That might be because
language.
when I remember when I applied, I said that,
What is that?
I bet you came from a town that has a harbor police force.
I don't
know where it came from.
I don't know where it came from. We put it together using a whole bunch of other
That's right.
towns as
So few of them.
models, and, yeah.
Like Bridgeport, for instance, has
Yeah.
the whole police force. Other than that, I think that's,
Now, just a
Jack,
quick
this is
question. As we discussed before, Brian, if I'm not mistaken, not to put words in your mouth, but I recall that you didn't think there was a pressing need for an assistant harbor master, correct?
I don't see one now, no. I mean, to do my duties, no, but, like the statement said, if, God forbid something happened to me,
Right.
there is no one else to do it, and this commission had a bad experience last year with a gap between a resignation and an appointment that left a summer with no one empowered under the statutes to do it. And there's no pressing need. I'm not planning on going anywhere.
Yeah, the issue is really the delay between a harbor master not being in place and how much time it takes for us to go through the process we're describing right now and getting the governor's office to approve someone. And so what we're trying to do is never be in a position where we don't have somebody who could perform those duties, particularly if it were to happen in the wintertime, right in the thick of all the administrative renewing people. January, February, it'd be just awful to have nobody that could issue any mooring permits to anybody.
Got it. So it's just to be proactive and ensure a smooth transition or effective successation.
Right, just continuity in an
Just-
emergency,
yeah,
right.
Just getting things done.
Right.
And is there a budget? Do we have a budget for that, or will we expend additional funds for this?
I don't think that would be an issue, Bill. I mean, the state would pay some amount of stipend, and we have our town budget that's appropriated by the RTM, which we always run pretty close to using, but we have the harbor account into which all of the mooring fees are deposited, and certainly that could be, we're allowed to use that money for the benefit of the harbor. So I don't imagine that we're talking about big dollars here, and we're not entirely without resources. So
I'm just conservative by nature. If we could save a dime, I'd like to do it. So I understand, the need to be proactive in the event that there's some issue with Brian fulfilling his duties. But if there's a way we could save, I would be inclined to not expend those dollars if they're not necessary.
My own view is that this is a role in name only and an honorary role.
Yeah, I would.
Thankfully, and so I don't think anything beyond what the state just automatically pays should be necessary in this situation.
Right.
I would agree. I don't plan on really giving him or her any specific duties because they don't need it. It's a small harbor, 80 moorings in the North Anchorage. It's not.
Well, but what the state of Connecticut is going to be saying is that you're responsible for the whole coastal.
I know. I have to look at the other moorings off Fairfield and keep track.
And so that might come a time, and who knows, when there is a project that requires you, Brian, to have some assistance, in which case, for that temporary period of time, perhaps it would be appropriate for our RTM money to approve money to go.
Because the person's actually doing some work.
But at this point, the state would pay a stipend, which is probably...
Was it $800 a year, I think? Something like $800 a year, I believe.
Something
like that.
Small amount,
yeah. But pretty generous for a job that has no requirements.
Right.
Jeff,
this is
you were going to say something. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, just say in the statutes, another thing to, maybe you've already mentioned this, is it specifically says that the deputy harbor masters shall have all the powers and perform all the duties of the harbor masters, but they are subject to the control and direction of the harbor masters. So that's very clear that they don't take action. They can't take action on their own.
They can't go rogue.
No rogues.
So maybe we should use in that
chasing boats up and down the harbor.
in that one sentence description and then see attached, it should probably should say at the control and direction of the harbor master.
Subject to the control and direction of the harbor master.
That's a good point. Add that in.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
So, Kim, do you feel like you've got a consensus of this committee?
I think this committee,
and we can just go with that.
You tell me. I mean, you're the ones listening to what we're all saying too.
I think Jeff's idea is just make it a reference to the other document.
You'll have a interview committee, basically?
Well, we would have to interview candidates.
Resumes, interviews.
And depending on how many we get, and what, I think the thing that we would want to do is to have some basic qualifications. Because those basic qualifications would, if we got 42 applications, for example, and I don't think we would, those basic qualifications would allow us to screen, so we wouldn't have to interview everybody.
Right.
So we might want to modify the assistant's job description to include those basic, so we wouldn't have to interview everybody.
Right.
But after that, it seems to me that we would interview everybody, we would ask everybody the same questions, we would allot the same amount of time for each of the interviews, and at the end of the process, we would score, we would decide who the three folks are, and Jeff would help us put together a letter that would send those three names up to Hartford we would have to indicate who our preferred candidate was.
It seems like by reference we could emphasize the requirements and
say qualifications.
See especially the qualifications.
We could do that. I'm just saying we'd have to have that reference
be able to screen them.
So
preference will be given to those candidates who possess the qualifications
described in the
harbor master's job description. So you can have someone who's
But that to me, that would be the only requirement, it seems to me, that we would have to.
Any other comments for folks on the phone before we wrap?
Yeah, Jack, one other thing, it's Jeff.
Yeah.
What, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. When we talked to the governor's office last, they said that they recognize that not in every instance may a commission be able to find three qualified candidates for a position of harbor master or deputy. And in that instance, that they would accept less than three, with an explanation that the commission attempted to find candidates but did not find could not find three. And in fact, that's what the Norwich Harbor Commission just did. They just submitted one name and explained that they could not find other people who were interested or qualified. So if you can't find three, I think you're still you could go ahead with submitting one or two names.
Yeah.
But you have to make an effort to find three.
We'll see how many people apply, but last time I think we met 3 times. Is that right? Did
Well, we
interview
met-
2 people
we met-
twice, and
we
then
met at least 5 times because we put together the job.
no. I mean in the interviewing process.
Oh, the interviewing.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had 2 groups of 2 and 1 group of 1, I think.
Yeah, 3 or 4. We had 4. Yeah, we had 4.
Where do we post
So
these?
this is Bill Perugini, if not mistaken. So we would recruit 3 candidates, interview them, and then send those nominations to the governor for him to appoint one of the 3. Is that correct?
We interviewed everybody who applied who had the that had appeared to have the qualifications last time. Every one of them, and then we recommended the top 3 that we
Well,
felt.
we recommended the top 3 with indicating our preference for the
Right.
top 1.
Right. I would
And
imagine.
the same process would be used for the deputy harbor master. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right. With the caveat that Jeff Stedman just brought to our attention that if we happen to only get 1 or 2 qualified people, we could send 1 or 2 instead of 3.
Got it.
Good. All right. So I think we're all set for next week then with
Yeah,
that.
sounds good.
So this would allow us to move fairly quickly into having a person just in case. I hate to be so morbid about this, but it was a bad experience last
Apparently. I know,
It was-
I can tell.
It was challenging, and the good news was there were no emergencies. There were
Right.
no difficult situations. It was
Well.
mostly,
There were a couple of annoying
there
ones.
were annoying.
He still has to be capable of supervising the deputy. He can't be comatose.
That's right. That's true. Draw the line at
Be
comment.
careful, Harbor Master.
Right.
I can watch my back with this guy.
And then finally, the last matter for
Might
today.
I say
Go ahead.
Jack, one other thing I might say just while I'm talking, I know this probably isn't what we'll proceed to do, but I know several young college students who would love to have a job like that, just as an opportunity to get experience in public service and working in the community and being involved and learning. But I guess that's not the approach that we would want to take.
Any applicant?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
I just wondered, how are you going to? Jeff is talking about less than 3. Has any thought been given to asking the citizen or providing the citizen with the notification that the Harbor Management Commission is seeking an assistant harbor master and state what the requirements are, and using that as a means of, I think of you're just maintaining the in-house process of notifying people that this position is available. I think that Jeff's comment, there may be many people outside that via the citizen or other means would be interested in and would apply for such a position.
I can't remember if we did send them information about it to publish last time when
You did, I think you did.
We did, Pat. We sent information to the patch,
Right.
to the citizen. We used the online mooring to broadcast to all of everybody who was in the system.
And I think it was on the town website.
It was on the town website, and it was also in the First Select Woman's newsletter.
Right.
So, and I believe, actually, I'm pretty certain it was also posted at Black Rock Yacht Club.
Yeah, so I would imagine we'd want to do that. Maybe we can mention that next week at the meeting, but I mean, I would want to do the same thing again for all the reasons Pat just said.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think you covered all bases.
Okay, good. The last thing I was going to mention was just recognition that our esteemed consultant celebrated a birthday, I believe, this last week, and I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday on behalf of all of us.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
Jeff, did you hear that? Jeff Stedman?
Yes, I didn't know it applied to me because you had the adjective of esteemed.
Well,
I was responding for Jeff.
well, What are friends
Well,
for, Jack?
that's
yeah,
because
we
it's
have
the word.
tea and crumpets every Saturday. I know.
Well, that's because esteemed applies to you, not me. But thank you so much. I'm not
Threw you off.
not being frivolous. Yeah.
All right, very good. I think that's it for today. We will stand adjourned. Take care.
And one last thing, Jack and
yes.
Harbor Master and Kim, and I'll send it over to you, Pat, as well, to take a look at the draft of the annual report, and then maybe we could finish that in the next day or so.
That would be great.
Looks very good. I
like it. I thought it was
So take a look at it. All right. Talk to you later. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.